Jay Young is a fourth-generation oil and gas professional. He is our go-to for all things oil and gas, and he joins us again on the Wake Up Call. Jay, welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me baback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always good to be in Eugene, Oregon. Love it.
So you've been here personally? You've got some experience?
I have, and I need to come back because I love the weather there in the summertime. It's so much better than Texas.
Oh, my God,
goodness.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. We have a couple of days of hot just to kind of remind us what Texas is all about. What were you doing in what capacity, if I can ask?
Oh, no, just a visit. Just kind of an in-and-out type deal. I haven't spent a lot of time there, but it's just one of those things that I've got a friend of mine that was that they're looking for a place to retire, and so they went to all these different places around the country. And I was like, hey, man, well, then we were up there going to Seattle games. I was a big Ranger fan, Texas Ranger fan, or owner, small percentage owner in the Texas Rangers, and we were just kind of doing the things and never down there. So, man, me and a buddy of mine just hopped in the car and went down there real quick, and I'd heard about it, and it's a great place, beautiful city, and clean. It seems cleaner than a lot of places that we get here in Texas, especially in the summertime.
Yeah,
and just a nice area.
It might have been a couple of years. There are some spots that are a little, we'll just say, a little cluttered at this point. But overall, I mean, especially as you get out of the city limits and venture into the world of forest, it is very clean, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
What is it? And now we're totally off the subject, derailed as we typically do on the show. But what is number one and number two? What's at the top of the list of the cities that you're looking at right now? If you had to pick today, where you're retiring?
No, I like Aspen, and I love the mountains. I love the. I saw, because I was watching the news this morning, and they had Aspen, Colorado on, and they're doing some summit there, which is pretty cool. But you know what? I love South Carolina. My mom retired to Beaufort, South Carolina. She's since passed, but I'll tell you what a beautiful little city that was. I mean, it was a nice place, and all the people are real friendly. It didn't cost a lot of money to live there. I mean, it's just, and it's on the water. But man, in the summertime, it has a lot of huge mosquitoes, and it's hot. So I'm trying to get out of the heat.
Trying to get some elevation.
I know that what they say there is go north, young man, go north, right? So I'm thinking about trying to get up north somewhere. Where do you like? What's a good go-to for you in the summertime or the winter? More the wintertime.
Well, there's a lot of people I know that get the heck out of here because rain is something that a lot of folks. I'm kind of used to it at this point, and I feel like after 3 or 4 months of just nothing but gray, it does get a little much. So I think the change in climate might be a little different for you. You might want to have kind of a go-to spot just to kind of get out of, if you were to move up to the Pacific Northwest. We'll just say a lot of people are shocked at how expensive real estate is up here. I talked to a gentleman, he had an LSU cap, and I lived in New Orleans, so we started talking, and he was selling a house in Florida, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, looked like 2,200 square feet, and he was up here renting. He was like, I wish my wife would have told me, how expensive it is. It's maybe not to California, scale, but it's pretty darn close. I mean, people are shocked. So do kind of the whole check-in. But yeah, and I hear.
I'm not sure the big industries that are there. I'm sure there's some software companies up there that are growing.
Yeah, we've got some Google. We got some of the big, definitely big corporations that are moving more to Bend and some other outskirts. Eugene, Springfield.
Nike has a big presence there.
Yeah, and even that, they're not real pleased with the situation in Portland with the streets situation. So there's speculation that maybe in a couple of years, which would be devastating to the Oregon economy as a whole, if Nike was to leave, and it's kind of hard to process that. But yeah. So anyway.
Wow. Wow.
Well, keep us posted.
Oil and gas. Hey, you want to talk about oil and gas?
Yeah. So,
talk about Texas heat some more.
Jay Young,
no, I'm just kidding.
Chatting with us on the wake up call. I was thinking the average person. We kind of talked about it last hour to just a small degree, but I'm thinking that the average person, if you were just to take the person off the street, they would say that the Russian invasion of Ukraine is the reason. Surely, it's the number one reason, and it's a part of the equation. But what would you point to the reasons for some of the high prices that highest that we've ever paid?
Yeah, good question, and it is because of the Russia situation. But it all boils down to supply and demand. If you don't have the supply and the demand's there, then prices. It's just about economics. So what we're happening now is we're not producing oil at the rate that we need to be where our demand is. Our demand is just skyrocketing, and our supply isn't meeting it. It's getting there, and it may be there by the end of the year where we can see prices starting to come down or not hurt as bad. But, reason why are we not drilling for oil and gas in the United States? What's the big reason? Well, there's the government, and not necessarily the federal government, and let's don't just point, our finger at Biden only. He is a reason. But there's also state governments, there's local governments, in Colorado and Wyoming that it's hard to drill for oil and gas. Public companies, Exxon makes $6 billion last quarter or the first quarter this year, and they spend $10 billion buying back their stock instead of doing what they need to be doing in a situation like this where you have a need for oil and you're making so much money, you need to start putting that money back into the ground. To drill for oil and gas, so we can have more and oversupply, so we can be oversupplied and our demand go down instead of the other way around. And also, there's private equity companies that aren't putting money in, and that's another cog in the wheel, if you will. And there just hasn't been that many good things happen for the price of the gasoline to go down. It's just like this. If it isn't Russia, and if it isn't, going on something with private equity, or if it's not Biden, having 7, presidents of these major oil and gas companies come to Washington, D.C. last Thursday, all of them come in, and he's not even in the meeting. He asked them all to come in. They all come to Washington, D.C. on Thursday last week. He asked them to come in. He puts them in a room, and then he doesn't even show up. He goes to a renewable meeting instead of that meeting, and he puts his energy secretary in there, which I'm not sure how much supply and demand is known there. But we're just not doing anything that we need to be doing. So this may last for a long time. I wrote the book, The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing, and when I did, I thought about this and what's going on with the price and supply and demand, because it's ugly now. I don't know how much uglier it can be. We'll get through it, as we always do with cycles, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer this time to really get through and have what we need, which is, we need lower gasoline prices. We need $3, $2. It's when Trump was talking about drill, baby, drill, and the economy was putting out there, and we had the demand at the time for oil, and he saw that and told everybody, drill, baby, drill. We need to drill, and so we did, and we were net exporting and all these different things. So I think it's just it's a cyclical business, and I'm fourth generation, been around it all my life, and it's going to come back. It always does, and it just kind of hurts at this time, but we are going to go. We are going to use less, but it's just going to take. We're not there yet.
Fourth generation oil and gas professional Jay Young joining us on the wake up call. You mentioned $2 and $3 gas. You think that's still a possibility, and that the new normal is not going to. You talk about the big corporations and some of the other entities and involved groups not really thinking about the average man and woman out there trying to put money in their gas tank. You think that we're going to be back to those days of $2 and $3 again, or is there going to be a new normal?
That's a great question and a great thought. I don't know if it's ever going to go down to $2. But I tell you what, the way that the oil and gas industry is ramping up right now with our supply, I could see us being back at the $2 to $3 range. It won't be anytime soon, but I can see us getting back there because private equity is coming back into the markets right now. They're saying, all right, well, let's don't worry about this ESG. ESG is the social governance, and all the people aren't investing in oil because they don't want to put pollution and all this scare, and then all of a sudden the price goes way up, and the CEO or chairman of Blackstone says, wait a minute, these economics worked out too well with this oil and gas industry. Let's go back into oil and gas. So they're saying, we're going to put off our statements on the ESG. We're going to go back. So they're coming back. Oil and gas companies are picking up more rigs right now. We're at 780 rigs, and we need to be, 800, 900 rigs, and we're getting there. I mean, it's like we're getting there. And then also when more people are buying electric cars, which they are right now, well, the demand won't be there as much. So I can see us getting there. It's just going to take a little bit more time. And but when it does, it'll be obviously a lot better for everybody.
So Jay, if you've been in the industry for years, if you could be, say, king for the day, what changes or new policies would you put in place to kind of make things a little bit more rational and easily absorbed and paid for?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the big thing I'd be doing would be saying, hey, let's go out to the public companies and let's just talk about, okay, let's help our economy. Let's get out there and let's start drilling again. Permits would be easier. Midstream companies, these pipelines wouldn't be cut down. We would talk about, like state governments. I mean, it's like in Wyoming and Colorado, we're trying to drill some wells up there. It'll take months for us to get. We have to go through and get all the information. We have to give them our plans. We have to all these other stuff. We're in Texas. Me and Jim Bob can go get a rig tomorrow and start drilling. So I would let down on the state governments, making sure that, hey, you know what? Okay, great. Let's go back to all these hard rules for oil and gas companies when the price comes down. Let's don't prevent it. With beautiful places to drill up in Wyoming and Colorado, great places. I mean, the economics are really, really good, but they're hurting us by kicking us down the curb and making sure that we spend a lot of time on getting permits, so it's just tough. So that would be one thing. I mean, I'd be talking to public companies. I'd go under I wouldn't say that I'd do the same thing as drill, baby, drill, because Donald Trump already did that, but I would be doing the same thing, like, hey, we've got to get back and we've got to start drilling. Tax breaks. I mean, as in our funds, you already get 100% write-off in our funds against your adjusted gross income, so that's good. But I'd probably get some tax credits out there, tax credits for people that got rigs or got multiple rigs or something. There's things that we could do on the top level to talk about oil and gas instead of saying that we don't want to drill for oil and gas in the United States. You oil and gas companies are making too much money, or we need to open up our refineries, or there's just so many other things that you could do that are so much easier to deal with, and to have it to where you become friendlier, or you become a better steward, if you will, of people's money. Because to pay $3, $4, $5, $6 a gallon is just outrageous, and if it's costing you $100 to fill up, I mean, wow, that's just so much more money. And most people out there, it's like I've talked to people up in St. Louis and are saying, we were going to go to the Grand Canyon for summer vacation this year, but now we're going to have to go to, Branson, Missouri, which is still not a bad place, but I'm just saying, they've never been to, Grand Canyon or Seattle. Some of the things I can remember growing up, and we had 29-cent gasoline when we took a Colorado trip. Of course, that was back in the 70s, but that was a long time ago. But, it was one of those things that hey, if the price of gas is less, you can do a lot more and spend a lot more in other areas. So we need that again. And how do we do that? Well, it's by drilling, and it's by not showing inflation and us going into a recession and having some demand destruction, which could happen with the way things are going right now.
I think that might
be easier. We need to do what we're doing, which is letting people get back to work. Be more pro drilling. Pro drilling. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, everybody needs oil and gas, whether or not if they're green people. I mean, I'm not saying green people as in the color. They're the people that don't want us to drill for oil and gas in the United States. Those people, they are sitting there going, I don't want you to drill, but then they're driving to work in a car and they're using lipstick or makeup or plastics or asphalt. There's so many different uses for oil and gas. It's not going away anytime soon. It'll be here for a long time. So we need to just continue doing what we're doing, but we also need to increase the knowledge of what happens, with oil and gas, and not just that's what's happened. We've thrown a blanket on investment. We've thrown a blanket on investment and oil and gas companies and all these other things because we're just trying to get away from it. But it's not that bad. It's not as bad as what people think, and you put that out there for people, and man, you think we're murderers or something in the oil and gas business. It's pretty bad. So.
You covered a lot of information, and in that testimony, you actually put Seattle and Grand Canyon in the same sentence as a tourist destination. I think that's awesome. Jay, always a kick to have you on the show. If you ever get up to the Pacific Northwest again for an investigational, you're looking for a place to retire, if you come through Eugene, we'd love to have you in studio.
That'd be great. Thank you so much, and you guys have a great week, and happy 4th of July coming up here.
You too.
And I'd love to be on next month, so let's get together next month.
Jay, I love it. I love that idea. Have a great one, and thanks for the time. Always spirited.